and welcome to the first ever episode of Resolved Mysteries podcast. I'm Eliza with Allison and Carlin. In this episode, we're going to be updating...
Hi.
Oh, hi. There they are. I guess I'll let them talk.
Thank you.
Can I get a word in? We're going to be resolving and resolving the stories of Shannon and Dave Davis, George Marsh, Aileen and Pat Conway, Bessie and Glenn Hyde, and Dottie and Jewel Kaler. We've discovered some pretty interesting information about some of these stories and are excited to discuss.
Real quick, we just learned about podcasting equipment like 5 minutes ago. So bear with us because you're going to hear us actively figuring stuff out. It's going to be really interesting for everybody.
We're just doing our best.
You're also going to hear us talking over each other and or not talking at all sometimes.
A lot of like sex moans like, oh.
Or, ah.
Yeah. Eliza's
We're first
super
timers,
good
guys.
at that. Yeah. It's our first time. So just like, be gentle and kind.
Yeah,
Also,
about that.
we are watching the show on Amazon Prime if you want to watch along with us.
Absolutely.
Yes, journey along.
Not available anywhere else yet, but we're hoping.
No, but we're also not sponsored by Amazon Prime. Let's make that super clear.
But if they want to sponsor us, no, we don't want that.
That's fine, but we're also not affiliated with Unsolved Mysteries in any legal fucking way whatsoever.
No, you're not.
Yeah, so like whatever kind of copyright shit, like we're just watching the show and following up and resolving.
Very good, Allison.
Thank you.
It's a play on words.
Get it, guys?
Okay, enjoy.
Yay. Don't do
We
that.
are recording.
Okay. So, the first segment of the first episode of the first season, technically, not the first season, but whatever, of Robert Stack is Shannon and Dave Davis, and the title sequence is Wanted. So, on July 23rd, 1980, Hillsdale County, Michigan. That's MI, right? Michigan?
Yeah.
Okay. Fucking rad. Okay, so newlywed Shannon and Dave Davis went for a sunset horseback ride. But, like, they weren't, like they were super newlyweds because they had only known each other for, like, fucking 18 weeks or something. Oh, wow. Yeah, so I think they were married for 7 weeks when Shannon mysteriously died. So according to Dave, Shannon was an experienced horseback rider and she fell off her horse and hit her head. Initially the family believed him, which, I mean, they barely knew him, but whatever. They were like, we loved him, and the mom was super into him. She thought he was neat, but he immediately wanted her cremated, which the family was like, no, like, we don't believe in that. And Shannon didn't believe in that, which I think is weird because, like, who knows what somebody believes in at 25 years old? Like, right?
No, you don't know.
You don't write a will or, like, express your wishes when you're that young.
Do you know?
No.
Like, if you guys died, I would not know what you would want me to do.
No, but I'm going to ask you that later.
Oh,
cremate me, baby.
After the cremation thing, Shannon's mom remembered that Dave had taken out a large life insurance policy on Shannon, and, like, obviously,
Wow.
So I just want to say really quick that the mother is amazing. Like, Unsolved Mysteries Season 1 and 2, you had to do your own reenactments. They didn't hire anybody. She's awesome. And there's like this amazing shot of her. She's like sitting in a dark kitchen, like chain smoking cigarettes, like realizing that Dave killed her daughter. And like the fact that she was willing to be like, yeah, I'll do that again.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like a noir film.
It's the actual mother.
Yeah, it's amazing. So they buried her, and I guess like that means the parents won that argument. And then they found out that he had 6 different life insurance policies on Shannon.
Oh!
Yeah. Yes. And Shannon was, like, apparently a really independent, intelligent woman, and she was on the rebound when she met him. But, like, when she found out, like, he had taken out almost $1 million in 1980 monies on her life after, like, they had been married for 7 weeks.
So she did know.
She knew.
Okay.
She told her mom, and then Dave lied about it.
Yeah, he told her dad. He didn't.
Yeah, he was like, I don't have any money
Shannon had
riding on her.
Oh. Yeah.
I know. Can you imagine? Like, what the fuck? But, like, okay. So, like, someone for 11 weeks. You get married to them. Mm-hmm. And then you find out on your honeymoon, like, they took out a huge life insurance policy on you. That's, like, was there not red flags in the 80s? Like, were they not a thing?
There wasn't a thing
They
yet.
did not exist.
So this was just like a thing people
White
did?
flags only.
White?
Surrender forever.
That's a nightmare. Did you take an insurance policy out like the minute you got
Also,
married?
to tell her.
Also, she's 25. She's not dying. Like,
Well, she did not think that was weird.
And thinking about getting a life insurance policy then, you had to like go to the office.
Yes.
It's a whole big thing.
So he had to go to 6 different insurance company offices.
Right.
And
no DocuSign in 1980.
I just have in my notes that if somebody takes 6 policies out on you, you have to fucking just run. Like, it doesn't matter if you're in
I think even 2 is a good cutoff.
If you're
2 might get-
25,
Yeah.
like, and like, what was the premium? Like, he's paying this premium for 6 different policies, so he's paying hundreds of dollars a month. And then she dies 7 fucking weeks after they get married.
Oh, so he really didn't have to pay that much.
No, he didn't. He was a truly good investment. So they found out that he was due to get over $330,000 in 1980, which is over $1 million by 2018 standards. Then they found out that he was also like involved in some other insurance fraud stuff. Like he set a barn on fire across the street. So I guess
Which everyone was extremely casual about
I know.
when they talked about it.
the dad was like
there was a barn that burned down, and then he just glossed over it until the next topic.
I was like, can you tell me more? Like, why did he, can you insure a house that isn't yours? Like, can I insure the house across the street?
Now that's a way to go.
Right? And then it's like, you don't suffer any consequences, just burn it down.
Yeah, especially when everyone is so casual about the house burning down.
Exactly. Like, everyone's like, that barn burned down. I don't fucking know. Like, what? Also, I forgot what I was going to say.
He had some other lies.
Oh, he had a bunch of other lies, which I'm going to come back to.
Yeah.
Talk about escalation. Like, you burn down a barn and then you murder your
Right.
wife.
That's a fast transition.
Yeah, yeah. So when the dad found out about all of his insurance shit, they exhumed the body for like the first time. And they ruled that it was an accident. Like they found like trace amounts of an unknown substance, but they still ruled that it was an accident. So I guess they didn't know what the substance
So
was.
he breathed a sigh of relief for the second-ish time.
Yeah, he's fine. So a couple months later, though, the Detroit Free Press exposed Davis in the newspaper, and everybody flipped out. So the case was reopened, and he fucking pieced. He was like, goodbye, I'm going to Florida. And I read that right after Shannon died, he went to Florida with a girlfriend, and he said that she invited herself along. Like, basically, it was just like, and he couldn't say no. Like, how are you? Like, no, my wife just died. I'd like to be by myself. Like, you just have to say yes.
Yeah,
It's
how
super
could
embarrassing.
you possibly say no?
Exactly. You know, like, awkward. And she said that he told her that he was involved in CIA covert ops.
Whoa.
Which, obviously, I believe her. Because, like a man telling a woman that he's involved in CIA covert ops is like the death rattle of like that pickup line.
Oh, yeah.
It was the 80s.
Yeah.
So it was before like that became a trope to show someone is a loser by lying and saying that they're like George Costanza.
Yeah.
Like, seriously. So like
Architect.
Yeah, exactly. Like anybody else that heard that from anybody like born from like 1970 on would have been like, no, you're not. That's not a thing. Let's see. The police and the toxicologist revisit the unknown substance in Shannon's system, and we'll come back to that. And they try to figure it out because there are thousands of possibilities. The detective gets information that Davis was a dirt farmer.
Yeah, and when they said that in the episode, I really thought they were going to say dirt bag.
I mean, same.
Yeah.
Same for sure, but I thought the word bag was coming next for sure, and it didn't.
You have to be objective.
I need to know actually what is a dirt farmer.
True question.
Like, me too. I am too. I have it in my backyard. Dirt.
I mean, like, do you have like
then
a
you're
bad
a farmer?
Do you have like a bad crop? Like, what's like a bad year for a dirt
it's
farmer?
Very rocky. Soil.
So he's a dirt farmer. And on a dirt farm, there are some animals, and the detective asked some veterinarians if there was a drug that could knock out a large animal. I think that the detective knew that, like, horse tranquilizers truly fuck you up, but the show was just kind of like, what's that called? Expositioning. So the toxicologist tested the drug, and surprise, it was Special K. It's not technically called Special K, but
do we know the
I'm eventually going to say the fucking name, but I'm going to mangle it, and I'm just not there yet.
No, it's great.
Also, I just want to interject that that's my nickname at work.
How do they say it? Special K. Like that?
Yeah, most of the time.
Oh, also they just kept saying animal tranquilizer because like I think someone was like, hey, let's not create a show that teaches like men how to murder their wives.
Smart.
Right?
And yet
Let's
still,
not make this a how-to video.
Yeah, exactly. Let's just call it animal tranquilizer, and like people in the know are gonna know. Apparently the samples matched perfectly, so they exhumed Shannon again.
Ugh.
I know.
You can't do that.
Don't do that. They found 2 injection marks on her shoulder. So,
Which is fucking crazy that they didn't see that the first time.
I guess like it's super like if you're not I think if you're like a ME, if you're not looking for something,
Yeah.
they were like she fell.
I think then, especially, that's what's so crazy about rewatching the show. I forget. I mean, it's clear that it's late 80s by the outfits and the glasses, but you do forget that that's not that long ago, and also it is so long ago.
Yeah.
So they found 2 injection marks, and on October 13th, 1981, the warrant for Davis was issued. They figured he pushed her off a horse, incapacitated her with an animal tranquilizer, and then hit her with a rock. Like a true fucking hero.
What a sweetie.
Charm. So he fled the country and he evaded authorities for almost a decade until a woman in Hawaii saw this case featured on Unsolved Mysteries and tipped investigators. And the show actually inspired like no usable leads until the break came like 8 years later when NBC showed a rerun of Unsolved Mysteries, and the ex was like, I know that guy. So Robert Stack is all like, update. He doesn't mention it took like almost a decade.
No, of course not. He's just so proud.
Exactly. So it ended up that he was in American Samoa with a 20-year-old wife who, in the footage, does not look happy.
Isn't she like crossed arms? Like,
yeah, her face is just like dagger.
It's so sad.
Yeah. Her name was Maria Sua. I found a couple articles and I found a quote, and she says, I still believe he didn't do it, but even if he did, he's a different person now. Putting him in prison won't bring her back.
No.
Why don't they let him go?
No. Honey.
wow.
Okay, so this guy scooped her up when she was 17, so obviously like... whatever. But like just because you like your husband doesn't mean he doesn't have to go to jail for murdering a woman. So they captured him. So Davis went to jail, right? And that's in the show. And it turns out the guy in the episode who is the toxicologist, his name's Forney, he was embellishing his results. So remember when they said like, it's a perfect match?
It's not.
Yeah, because succinylcholine.
Ooh, not good.
You're welcome. Breaks down quickly in the system. So at the point her remains were tested, there's no perfect match because it was probably already out of her system.
Oh.
So Davis was able to go back to court.
No.
Yes.
Oh my God.
I know, right? So, like, it's super important to not fucking lie or embellish. So, like, they had to go back, and, like, the parents had to go through, like, a new trial, and this guy could have fucking gotten out.
No.
Yeah.
Okay, so their daughter's body is exhumed twice.
Yes.
They put the killer away once.
Yeah.
And then he gets a new trial.
After he's been on the lam for almost a decade.
No.
Fuck, right?
No.
After he like pieced out immediately.
Yeah, like come on. And I was thinking, like, it's like the staircase. He got off, right? Because that blood dummy was like, oh, I've done 1 million blood cases, and he did like 3.
Yeah.
Don't lie. If you're important, tell the truth.
First lesson.
Oh, and then there's a fun fact about Davis lying, like telling more lies, like the Vietnam thing. Him and Peterson both lied about being like Vietnam War heroes, which I think is super interesting.
Yes.
Because that happened all of the time. Because there was no internet. So everybody was probably like, I have like...
Wait,
40
were we
fucking
just right?
listening?
Because I was like, how do you lie about that? Like, how does someone not know?
Because you can be like, I have 40 Purple Hearts.
Well, but also you have a family, and your family can be like, no, that didn't happen.
But that's when they say, I hate my, I don't talk to my family or whatever.
We had a falling out or like...
But I hate my parents. Don't call them.
Don't fucking fact check
his
me.
mom was the one that outed him.
Yeah.
Davis's mom?
Yeah. No, sorry. Yeah, Davis's mom. She was like, no, he was never in the service at all.
Amazing. On November 9th, 2017, David Davis, the man with the laziest name ever, died of congenital neuromuscular disease at the Michigan Department of Corrections, Dwayne L. Waters Health Center in Jackson. He was fucking 70.
No.
So he had a much longer life on a fucking island with a teenage girlfriend than 25-year-old Shannon when she died.
No.
So fuck that guy.
Yeah.
Fuck that guy.
Fuck him.
Yeah. The end.
Good job, girl.
Thanks.
So I get a super light but interesting story as my first resolved mystery. This is an update, still in episode 1 of season 1 of Robert Stack, but in 1987 they had done some specials, I think, to kind of see how the show would go.
Yeah.
And they were longer. I think they did like 6. This is one from September where, so in the special, and then they revisit it in the show, Robert Stack tells us that George Marsh was a man who died in a nursing home in Kansas City, Missouri in 1982, all by his lonesome. I know, it's sad. But he left behind $175,000.
Okay, hi.
Hi. A birth certificate showing that his name used to be Joseph Zelenka. And some photos, presumably from his long-lost family. So when they aired the special, they were hoping that someone could identify Mr. Zelenka/Marsh or his heirs. And I was thinking this is just so 1987 because you cannot go on TV today and say, yes, hi, we have money here, and we don't know who should get it. Do you want it?
She's just like, does anybody want
this money belong
this
to?
$100,000? Is it
Hi,
yours?
would you like it?
Did you just solve a fucking mystery?
Oh, okay, you can
I'm
have
like,
it.
I solved it. Hi, it's me. Thank
Hi,
you.
it's me.
Yeah.
But you could do that in 1987 because a true sweetie who we do love named Eleanor Toller was watching the special. She's in her early 70s at this time, and she was shocked and surprised to see that one of the pictures they put up trying to find family members was her senior fit picture, which we will post. It's adorable.
So cute.
And she's a cutie in her 70s too. And then it was signed your loving niece Eleanor. So I think at first she was kind of shocked to see it, couldn't really believe that could be her. And then when she
can
saw,
you imagine?
That's fucking crazy.
That's me when I was a teenager.
Oh my God.
On television.
but is it? And then it signed your loving niece Eleanor, and she's like, that is me.
That's crazy.
And then the next photo they put up is a picture of who she called Uncle Joe, who's Joseph Zelenka. And so she recognized that photo. And so follow the family tree here. This is Eleanor, who is George Marsh / Joseph Zelenka's niece. Eleanor's father is Jim, who is Joseph's younger brother. You got it?
Yeah.
Okay. So Eleanor goes to her dad, who's like 90 at this time, Jim, and says, I think I found Uncle Joe. And the family had been looking for him since 1931 for 56 years.
What?
It's so sad.
It's so sad.
I want to know why he fucking disappeared.
I know.
What happened?
I
Well,
know.
that's what the brother says too. He's like, I had no idea why.
It's so heartbreaking.
Yeah. And we can play a clip. Maybe we'll put it in here.
I never no idea why he kept away from the family, because there was no hard feelings. We were all united, always, in everything.
And where Jim's talking about his brother and just saying there was no reason for him to
There
leave.
had to have been.
We missed him and we wanted him to be with the family. Blah blah blah. It's so sweet.
yeah, when someone disappears
But
and
there's
they're on
something.
good terms with everyone, what is happening?
He killed somebody.
Why did he change his name? One of the things that in my research that I looked up was Jim and Eleanor both kind of thought he must have changed his name to protect the family from whatever business he was doing. When they did see him before night, I think Eleanor was also born too. Because she would have been in her 70s. I think she was born in 1911. When they last saw him, in the late 1920s, he would always show up with just a different girl and lots of money. and then would be gone for a while and then would come back.
I think that makes sense.
So Jim and Eleanor divided up the money they received from Joe's estate among their remaining relatives, which I think was 29 of them. So everyone got $10, which is adorable. Well, it's so sweet.
Imagine being I'm fucking rich. Oh, right, you 28 other assholes.
Yeah. Which is just also so nice of them, because they could have just kept it for themselves.
I know. It's super nice.
But the main thing that they wanted to do was have Joseph interned in their family plot in Rock Springs, Wyoming.
To bring that body home.
Which is just so nice. And so, he had died in Kansas City, and I did a little research. Findagrave.com is a true dream. It's like LinkedIn for the dearly departed, basically, where it says where you're buried, who your family members are, where they're buried, what plot number, all that stuff. There's pictures of the grave sites sometimes.
What is it called again?
Interesting.
Oh, I just listened to a podcast where they use that. Finding Chloe.
Oh, yes. Findagrave.com. So when I looked on there, it looks like he is buried as Joseph Zelenka, a.k.a. George Marsh, in Rock Springs Cemetery in Wyoming, which is the same plot that his parents, so Jim and Joseph's parents, Vaclav and Eleonora.
Damn.
I know.
Vaclav.
Born in Czech Republic, I believe, are buried. So it looks like the Zelenka family, was successful in bringing him back to the plot, and that's post-show. They hadn't gotten that far when the show was aired. So it's just super sweet. There's not a huge update with this one, but unfortunately, both Jim and Eleanor have since passed.
Sure, that makes
sense. And have been, they probably know the mystery of where Joseph was this whole time now, if we believe in that. No, Allie doesn't. I medium don't either. It's fine.
I don't believe in anything.
What I was going to ask both of you, Allie and Carlin, what would you want if, your body, Carlin, we know you want to be cremated. So
Carlin fucking jumped at that.
I've made it very clear.
But I just think we don't care as much about that stuff, moving the body to be with the family. But that meant a lot to that family.
I mean, I think it used to mean a lot to a lot of people.
And I'm sure it meant a lot to them, but not to him.
Yeah, no, he's fucking dead.
Also, he's dead, and also something was going on that he didn't want his family involved or whatever.
Yeah. I like the idea, though, that he was protecting them and not
yes, that's so sweet.
Being insanely shady.
I thought he got somebody pregnant or something.
Where did all that money come from?
I don't know.
Okay, but say I find out you actually have all this other family, and you're dead. I've already buried you.
I want a Viking funeral. I don't want to be buried.
Okay.
Ooh.
Oh, we're burning you on those pyres? Oh, out in the water.
Yeah, bitch.
Yeah,
so you better learn how to fucking shoot an arrow.
Oh, honey, don't worry.
Yes.
Taken care of. Archery.
My dying request, girls. Shoot me with a fire arrow.
This is recorded for all time. So
we know now.
There will be no reinterment. Allie, Viking funeral. Carlin,
funeral all the way.
Burn her up.
Burn her up.
Burn me up.
You want to be burned up?
It's cheaper.
It's cheaper.
Also, way to be economical,
I'm dead.
girls.
Funerals are expensive, people.
And the earth is shrinking. That's science, right?
I don't think so.
So we don't want to make it bigger by adding bodies to it.
No.
I read once that if you took all of the graveyards, I guess in the country, and put them together, it would be the size of Rhode Island, or maybe in the world.
Oh,
also, that's not a fact. That's just something I read a really long time ago.
Rhode Island is so small.
I know, that's what they were saying. They're saying that graveyards don't actually take up that much space, and people think that they do.
It seems like they do. Well, I want to be cremated, but I want all my family members to sprinkle a little me on their pillow every night before they go to bed.
A little me.
Every night?
Every night.
Oh,
yes.
shit.
You can blend, to make it last longer, you could blend up some lavender.
I mean,
oh my God, you want to be a fucking essential oil. That's brilliant.
Charcoal masks are a thing.
So,
the dearly departed mask.
That's the story of Joseph Zelenka, a.k.a. George Marsh.
That's
Maybe
awesome.
not a true sweetie, but Jim and Eleanor sure are sweeties.
How do we still not know what he was up to?
Sorry.
New girlfriend and money all the time. He was living his best life.
That's it.
Okay, so the third segment in the first episode of the first season of the Robert stack Unsolved Mysteries, which, by the way, we're watching on Amazon, so Amazon Prime. So if you guys have Amazon Prime and you want to watch this with us, watch it. The third segment is Pat and Aileen Conway, and it is an unexplained death. And I have to be totally honest when I say the first time I watched this segment, I was drunk and I took notes and I sort of made up my own narrative. And the narrative
She was doing a lot of accents.
Yeah. So
it's not a bad way to watch the show.
Oh no, I watched it again drunk, honey.
It's not a bad way.
Your Oklahoma accent is on point.
For all of you at home, if you're going to watch on Amazon Prime, that's a great way to watch it. If you're doing a podcast about the show, we learned it's maybe not.
Yeah, stay sober.
Yeah.
Allison, just stay sober. Okay, so anyway, I wrote about like 3 pages of snarky notes about how like obviously it was Pat and he was a piece of shit.
Maybe if we do a Patreon, we can release those.
Sure. That is absolutely. You know what? We should have a whole like Patreon subscription where like
the drunk notes.
I will make money off that.
Okay, so this is an actual account of what happened. At 10:40 a.m. on April 29th, 1986, a farmer in rural Oklahoma, 15 miles outside of Lawston, where the Conways live, noticed smoke coming from a nearby road, and the Oklahoma Highway Patrol arrived on scene to find a burning car embedded in a bridge. Like, not like the Golden Gate Bridge, but like a bridge. And the heat was super intense, and the car had actually melted into the metal guardrail.
Yikes. So it's been burning a while.
Mm-hmm. And it was burning super, super hot. So it wasn't like, I crashed my car and the engine caught on fire. Like, the whole thing was like ablaze. And in the car was a body. But it was super burned, so it couldn't be recognized. And there's a lot of weird stories, or a lot of weird things about this case. So, like, let's just, okay. So weird thing number 1. Also, I started counting the weird things, and then I forgot. So I think I just landed at 2, to be honest. So weird thing 1. The skid marks showed that the car was going 50 or 60 miles per hour when it hit the bridge. So whoever was driving didn't even try to stop. They just fucking flew into the bridge. And then the next thing the show says is that the OHP ran the plates, and the car belonged to Pat Conway. He and his family lived 15 minutes away, and the next day they identified the body as his wife of 33 years, Aileen Conway. I feel like the show didn't do like a super good job with this, because was she missing for 3 days and like Pat didn't call the cops or anything? It's super weird. The like everything about this segment is really strange, so I don't know like what is.
It was weird. It was weird too, because they said when Pat, you'll maybe get to this, but when Pat got home from the crash site,
they said when Pat got home a few hours later. They don't even say from the crash site. So like, I don't know where the fuck he was.
Yeah, a few hours later from what?
Yeah. So the show doesn't address where Pat was, why Pat didn't call the cops for 3 days and say that his wife was missing, or if he did, it doesn't say that he did. Then they cut to Pat being like, this was a fucking murder, which like, okay. So this is Pat Conway's version of events. And also, it was just super frustrating. They don't say if like it was ever corroborated, if there were ever any other witnesses. Like, it's just Pat all the time, all the time. So he says that he came home a few hours after the accident. He says that the patio door was open and her purse was sitting by an armchair with her glasses and wallet in it. An ironing board was set up. The iron had been left on. There was a hose running in the pool, and the bathtub is filled and the phone is off the hook. In the episode, they show the phone like next to the bathtub.
Which is dangerous, right?
I mean, I don't know if it's dangerous, but it's certainly not like, okay, again, did people have bathroom fucking phones back then?
Actually, I think maybe, yeah.
Okay.
You took a soak and you talked on the phone.
Okay.
But, like, truly, how many things can you be in the middle of when something horrible happens to you?
We'll get to that, because, So then it cuts to Pat saying that, like, he put 2 and 2 together and realized something bad had happened to Aileen. And he also said that it was super weird. She was 15 miles away in a location she's never been in. And he goes to a lead investigator. I didn't write his name down. Sorry, dude. For the DA, who decides that... Oh, girl.
His name is Ray.
Carlin and her notes better than mine.
So
okay.
Pat and Ray.
Oh, yeah. So Ray's like, fuck yeah, Pat, this was an accident. Like, okay. So here's another weird thing, and the show doesn't address that it's weird. Ray and Pat go to the site to look for evidence. Okay, so here's the deal. Okay, so I know it was like before the husband did it, and like...
Yeah, this is the era of the husband definitely did not do it.
Yeah, like the husband is a working man, and he's bringing home the bacon, and the wife was probably just a crazy bitch, right? Okay.
Hysterical,
exactly. So you go to the lead investigator and you're like, my wife was definitely murdered. And he's like, yeah, totally. Definitely, for sure. Why don't we go to the crash site and look for evidence? Did nobody take any evidence before that? Like, I have...
It's a very good idea.
This is so... Right?
Yes, wait, yes.
Maybe we should look around.
Yeah, like, what the... Okay, so that is, like, super weird thing number 2. And I think that's
also, they reenact it.
Oh, they reenact it.
With
and
the real people.
It's insane. So yeah, and I even write like, oh, okay. So weird thing number 3, while quote unquote looking for evidence, Pat Conway finds a church flyer and he says he knows that it's Aileen's.
For sure.
And that it's totally sure that it was in her car. And like, what a weird coincidence. And he also says he knows for sure it didn't blow out of the window while she was driving because Aileen never drove with the windows down.
That was my favorite.
What?
Robert Stack in his narration even corroborates Aileen always used the air conditioner.
Why did he lean so fucking far into that? He was like, no, seriously, never. Like, what? Okay, maybe there's a bee in the car. Like, what the? You can't know if somebody...
How can you know?
How can you make such a final statement about that?
Well, and I think they were more making the point of like the laws of physics that the bulletin couldn't have just flown off of the dashboard if the car was moving forward at that fast.
But again, based on just what Pat Conway is saying, he's like, I came home to a full tub. That's her flyer. Oh shit, she always drove with the window. Like,
never, ever are those windows down.
Never. So anyway, I guess because of the flyer stuff, they surmised that she was kidnapped, placed in the car. Something was placed on the accelerator to try to like run her into the river, and it went into the bridge. They go to an arson inspector and he's like, yeah, totally. They show like them setting shit on fire for like 5 minutes. So everybody's convinced now that she was murdered. But the question becomes why? And the theory is it was a botched robbery. 1 or 2 people came to rob the house when they saw that she was home, and she saw them. They needed to kill her. So they drove 15 miles away, killed her, put something on the accelerator, put accelerant in the car. Why are you guys shaking your heads? It's the fucking truth.
How do you even do that to someone?
Nope. And also, so the poor girl is getting robbed while she's taking a bath, and she was also doing some ironing.
I mean, in the middle of an important
phone call. My chores done. These burglars or whatever did a whole lot of fucking work to get this woman killed and burned up. So that's the story. And I think this is where I started my research. Pat Conway died last year, and the murder of Aileen Conway was never solved. The first time I worked on this story, Rose Alley was like, this is totally ridiculous.
You were down Rose Alley.
Oh, I was down Rose Alley. Yes. Population, me.
Alley.
Yeah. So, like, I remember, I thought that, like, the mysterious events, like we were just talking about, like, weren't that mysterious. Like, aside from the pool being filled, which takes forever if you fill a pool. True. It takes fucking hours.
You have to leave that hose on.
Yeah. I assumed he just killed her before he went to work and then set the stage.
Just real quick before he went to work.
Yeah, just real quick. He was like, I hate you.
I gotta get this out of the way.
Yeah, whatever. I don't know what happened. I'm just saying that I think that this is, the crime scene is staged in like a super funny way. Because if you think about a guy in his 40s or 50s in the 1980s having to stage a crime scene for a woman, what do you
Yes.
He thought of a Calgon commercial.
Well, so clearly she was doing all the chores and taking a bath.
So he set up the iron, and he filled the bathtub with a bubble bath, and then put the phone by the bathtub. Like, I'm not saying he did this. I'm not saying he did it. He might have done something like
What
this.
does my dumb wife do
yeah, it's
all
just like,
day?
what kind of fucking scene are you trying to set right
Also,
now?
who takes a bubble bath at like 7 o'clock in the fucking morning?
No.
And it was weird because like the lighting in the bathtub, like it made it look like all dark and romantic, but it was like 7 a.m. when she was murdered.
Oh, good point.
Yes. I just feel like that's such a cliche. That being said,
We're not saying he did it.
No, we are not. Much respect to the Conway family because they're on the message boards and they're commenting. Yeah.
God.
And they're saying that there's no way their uncle or their pawpaw.
Oh, no.
Which is pawpaw.
It's an Okie grandpa.
Oh, okay. So they do have like a couple of points. Apparently,
Oh, no.
I know.
I feel so
and I
bad.
feel
Why
so
didn't
bad.
you- Hello.
Guys,
I know.
GSK was a grandpa too. It happens.
It happens.
happens.
Thank you, Carlin, the voice of reason. You and I are like,
I was
I know.
like so
The Golden
bad.
State
I know.
Killer.
Well, it's super upsetting to like read in the comments people being like, "There's no way this person did it. Not my papa."
Some
And like
extra
they
heart.
do have like they in the comment section they did make some points. One of them said that the Conways, I guess, had work being done on their house, so they had a lot of like workmen and construction workers coming and going.
Okay.
And some of the family members were suspicious that it was someone that worked for them.
So when you were, which it often is, when you were doing this research, did you actually see like their posts?
I did.
Oh boy.
That's why I felt super bad for getting drunk and talking all that shit.
Well, now I feel super bad for not being drunk and still talking
I
shit.
know, and that's why I didn't
And
lead
now
with the fact that these people
Millions are going to listen.
are fuck millions.
Subscribe.
Yeah, so it just seems super unlikely to me that she interrupted somebody mid-robbery, because if you're working on someone's house, you know their schedule. So maybe she was home and shouldn't have been. The show doesn't mention that. But to interrupt, be interrupted in a robbery, take the person, presumably at gunpoint, because they had to get her out of the house some way, not know what to do with her, drive her 15 miles out of town, decide that the only thing to do is to kill her, cover her with gasoline,
In a
and
very
then
bizarre way.
Yes.
No.
It's just like
There's too much planning for that to be an unexpected and uninterrupted
exactly.
robbery.
Yeah, so
Exactly.
I don't buy the robbery thing. I buy that I think it's planned, and I think that the house was staged.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not saying the husband did it.
Sure.
As we usually do. But someone did it. It's probably a man. It was probably a husband.
Oh, yeah. I mean, he was somebody's husband.
And
Somebody's husband.
yeah, you don't just, she's not doing all those activities during a robbery, and even if she is, the robbers are just going to leave.
Yeah.
You just notice someone's home and you leave.
Even if she was she... she wasn't hiding.
I wrote in my notes that he seems genuine
Pat Conway.
because I
Okay.
think I kind of believe him.
So that was my second point
No,
that
I
the family
immediately
made.
do too now.
Why would he go to the police? Oh, and they said that when he died, he was sad until his dying day.
Oh, Lord have mercy.
I know.
Okay, Pat, we're sorry. We love you.
I know.
Papa.
So, he was super involved with the police. He, went to the police. He was the one that said it was a murder. He was out looking for her murderer.
But sometimes
Hi, OJ.
they are.
Hi. So he's either a brilliant criminal mastermind to throw himself totally into this,
Right.
and just a level of psychotic whatever.
I was going to say a level of psychotic or psychosis that you believe yourself.
Which is usually how it, if they're going to go that far, they do believe it.
Yeah, and there's a lot of episodes of Unsolved Mysteries where the husbands are crying into the camera, and then it's update, the husband did it.
Yeah. Oh, we'll get
Hi.
there.
So I don't know. It just seems like such a crazy circumstance to have happen spur of the moment. There's no way that wasn't somewhat planned, and she didn't have any enemies. She didn't.
Right, there's no crazy backstory.
There's no
about someone
rumors
who-
of her cheating or anything.
I thought that they were going to get into something like that.
Me too.
Oh, here's where it's going, and it doesn't.
No, and so.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess if you believe Pawpaw, it's still unsolved. Yeah, so that's the sad tale of Aileen Conway and possibly Pat Pawpaw Conway.
We're sorry.
Yeah.
Conways.
Yeah, we're sorry, Conways, and we're sorry for Conway's family.
Yeah.
Yeah, so sorry, it's still an unsolved mystery.
Help us.
Maybe forever, unless you guys know something.
Someone knows something.
Email us.
Email us.
Go down the email alley.
Bye.
Oh, good. That's our soundbite.
Mysterious legend.
Harlan's just going to do all the sound bites.
Okay, so segment 4 is Mysterious Legends, Glenn and Bessie Hyde. They are a couple who were married. This is the oldest story we've done so far. They're a couple that was married in 1928, so a long time ago, and they are that couple who decides to have the most unromantic and horrifying honeymoon ever.
We all know that couple.
We all know
You know
that
who you
couple.
are.
You know. We don't want to see your slides.
You little adventure seekers.
So, but mostly we blame Glenn for this idea.
Okay. Glenn's the worst.
Glenn's the worst. So Glenn decides to not only take his new 18-year-old adorable bride, Bessie, and we will post photos. She's actually
Oh my God.
truly adorable. Her haircut, I want her. I love her.
Side haircut? I can't even believe that existed
Oh,
back
she's
then.
so cute. He decides to take her out on an incredibly dangerous boating trip for their honeymoon, and he decides to build the boat himself
Oh.
in 1928 with hand saws.
Great.
it's just a recipe for disaster. So they're gonna.
He had some other weird rules. Are you going to talk about them?
Yeah.
Okay.
But you can fact check any rules. Do you want to start
I just
now?
want to make sure we talk about them.
KB with the fact check. I'll get to one of the rules now. So not only does he build the boat himself, he decides that they are not allowed to use life jackets. Is that the rule you were going to say?
Yeah. He specifically wanted a young bride, and he wanted to not use life jackets.
Okay, so yeah, I'm going to build the boat myself. I'm going to get married. I'm going to take my wife on this honeymoon through the most dangerous part of the Colorado River down to the Grand Canyon.
So did he want to be famous?
He did.
Okay.
He wanted to be famous. And they did end up setting a record, which I'll get to. If the whole trip had been completed, Bessie would have been the first woman to complete the trip. And he wanted, but in 1928, his name would have been on that.
Of course.
He took her down there. So when they put in for their first leg of their journey at the Green River in Utah, a man who was a boating person said, "That boat looks like a coffin." and
Solid
Glenn
start.
said,
Red flag.
I love honeymoon coffins. Let's go.
There were
Bessie."
definitely no red flags in 1928
no.
either.
What color were the flags? Not red, not white.
Beige.
Beige.
So they set off, and the reenactment, if you're not watching, you haven't yet, you should watch all of them, but especially this one, because they truly have, obviously not the real Glenn and Bessie, but real actors in a wooden canoe boat thing down like severe rapids. And the poor woman is just in her big sweater. She looks cute, but like is just riding the front.
I mean, it's important to know.
It's important. You must watch. So they are on, camping on the side, but mostly in their boat for 26 days, which is actually a new record. Yeah, so they start at the Green River. They go to the Bright Angel Trail, which is in the heart of the Grand Canyon. 26 days, new record. Glenn is so excited. Bessie's like, "Get me the fuck out of here, please." They visit Emery Kolb, who is an avid boatman and photographer, and he's done the same run on the river that they're doing twice, so he's an expert. And he wears life jackets. So, poor Bessie. So, Glenn is probably the ultimate mansplainer.
Oh,
Of like, "Honey, I'm going to build the boat. We don't need life jackets. We're good swimmers. We'll be fine." Bessie's like, "It's 1928. I'm not even a whole person now.
Can I vote?
Can I? I'm not sure, actually.
When?
Barely?
Hey, fact checker.
Hey, B, did you take notes on?
I feel like they got the right to vote in like 1920.
I feel a little embarrassed that we don't know this fact.
Oh.
It's okay.
Even if she can vote, she's not a whole human.
No, of
in
course
that
not.
time.
She's just like half of her husband.
But she's like,
right?
"Okay, I guess I'll go along." So then Emery Kolb, who is a
reasonable man,
tries to say, "You really should not keep doing this." But the reenactment is... and I always watch everything with subtitles because I can't hear, is him saying, frankly, so it's just Emery and Bessie alone in a room, and he's saying, "Frankly, I just don't think you should go. Now, no woman has ever traveled the river from this point." And then Glenn walks in with his map, real mad, because he's been listening to the whole conversation.
I remember that.
Yeah. So he's like watching them through the window door.
Specific.
And then he busts in and throws his map down and says, "We're going to do it anyway. Come on, Bessie, the light will be fading." And the light.
We got the right to vote in 1920. I'm sorry.
Oh, Allie, you knew that.
Okay, I know.
Fact check, Allie.
What up?
Yeah. But, I mean, think
still
about 8
not
years.
a real person, sadly. So she's getting it from all sides. Like, Emery meant well. But Bessie's just like, "There's literally nothing I can do to help myself in this situation."
I married someone, they own me.
Yeah. So they continue on the second leg of their journey that they leave from Emery Kolb's house, and they hike down Bright Angel Trail. And the second part is the worst part, scariest part. I was looking up some of the rapid numbers. I think it's from 1 to 10, and a lot of them are like 8 or 9.
Jesus Christ.
But even
wooden boat
in a wooden boat, yeah, like that's today.
Like a coffin.
8 or 9, but you're with a guide and you're in a whitewater raft.
I love like the supreme mansplainer.
Oh, I thought you wanted to do this. This was your idea. Before they leave, Emery again says, "Please take my life jackets. Please take my inner tubes." Even I can't believe inner tubes were a thing, but they were. Glenn refuses all the offers. They set off again. Oh,
And his quote was, "Without or else."
Yeah, without or else.
Or
Like,
else.
why was that so?
And
sorry.
or else did come true.
Yeah, or else.
Yeah, Emery also was like, please at least stay the winter at my house,
right,
because the
season
weather's
was
terrible.
changing. Right.
Yeah, because it's November. So on or around November 18th, 1928 is the last time anyone sees the couple. And then in early December, Glenn's father begins to worry and asks Emery Kolb to lead a search of the canyon. And on December 19th, a search plane spotted their scow, right?
Probably scow.
Adrift around River Mile 237. The boat or coffin is completely intact and undamaged. Inside they found food, clothing, a camera, and Bessie's journal.
Right.
But no Glenn or Bessie are seen. So they start investigating. Bessie's last journal entry noted that they had cleared the 231 mile rapid, and that one was dated November 30th. So some of this is a lot of this is not in the show. This is some extra research, but they had cleared the 231 mile rapid, and a lot of experts say that the 232 mile rapids are considered the most dangerous. So they wonder if that is when their boat flipped.
Crazy that it could be that specific too, like 231 to 232.
Yes, and still, like, I guess it still is considered to be like that,
Holy
and
shit.
it's where most of the boats have. Like,
especially handmade boats by your garbage husband.
So they try and get a pinpoint of like how long have they been missing, and they're thinking, well, if their boat did capsize or it flipped over but then righted itself amazingly, it's amazing that it's not hindered in any way, undamaged. They're like, well, maybe they're on a cliff somewhere, like they've climbed up and they're looking for help, but it's already been 21 days. It just seems like they wouldn't have just not found their boat again if they were okay.
Also, like, filled with all of their stuff, but nothing's wet or damaged.
Yeah, right. Everything's intact.
Yes.
Everything's fine.
Okay.
Okay, so then, in the beginning of Unsolved Mysteries, this section, they hint at too. Emery Kolb, who lived in this gorgeous house on the Grand Canyon, photographer, boating expert, he lived there forever. After he died, 50 years after Glenn and Bessie are not seen again, there is a human skull and skeletal remains found in his boathouse.
Yes.
And the whole way through, Emery Kolb was seen as like, oh, he's just a nice guy who's trying to help them out. A lot of people thought, so this is in the 70s that he died, a lot of people thought, well, this must be Glenn Hyde's remains. It was definitely a man they knew. So there are many theories about what happened to Glenn and Bessie, and then people were always trying to tie it to the skeleton. So I'll talk about a couple of the theories about Glenn and Bessie in general. So, and some of these are in the show and some are not. So one that's in the show, a little, like 5 years before the skeletal remains were found in Emery Kolb's boathouse, some people were taking like a really long river run and had a campfire in the canyon, and a woman in her 70s, they're telling the story of Glenn and Bessie, which is like a really common, I think, for people avid in that.
Tale of the river.
And this woman just speaks up, and this is a great reenactment too, and says,
insert reenactment here.
Yeah, here we go.
She was a very serious person. She was always just watching the canyon and helping out a little bit around camp, all the time wanting to do something, and fairly happy, but quiet, and pretty much to herself.
Towards the end of the trip, they made camp at Diamond Creek.
So it was right around the corner there where Emery Kolb.
The same spot where Glenn and Bessie's boat had been found 4 decades earlier.
You know, to this day we have...
That evening, a river guide told the legend of the missing couple, and the woman, matter-of-factly, revealed her true identity.
I'm Bessie Hyde.
She told us seriously enough to where we wasn't sure what else to say,
Killed him.
but we all figured she was just making up her own story. But later on, we got to thinking, now maybe she really was Bessie because the age was
I
right.
got a knife and I
And she never smiled when she said what she said, as if she really knew.
And she speaks up and claims to be Bessie. And when asked what had happened to the couple, the woman claiming to be Bessie said she killed Glenn, stabbing him with a knife after he had beat her up because he was just so obsessed with finishing the journey and she didn't want to. And so she killed him and escaped. But then later, the woman's name you can't find anywhere, but someone does know it, the guy that was interviewed for the show, and he said later he called her and she recanted her whole story and said that she never even told the story around the campfire. So she's kind of out, but I don't know, I kind of like that idea. I like the idea of Bessie getting away, obviously.
Me too.
But then if that's him being stabbed, then that doesn't really match with the skeletal remains necessarily in Emery Kolb's boathouse, because that skull had a bullet wound above the right temple.
Oh, shit.
Yes. So before I get more into that, so then another woman named Georgie Clark, who's actually pretty interesting, and she was one of the first river raft guide for the Colorado River down the Grand Canyon. When she died in 1992, her friends had never been invited into her house. She was like one of the first. She's really interesting. I actually want to read more about her. In the 50s, they used to have like army surplus rafts, and she would tie them all together and just make like raft islands and go down the Colorado River in the raft island as like one of the first women doing that. And then also that's when like the Parks Department and like safety was coming about that were saying you really shouldn't do that. So she's like the first woman, and also she's like, I'm not going to listen to the man telling me what to do. She was interesting because no one ever had been invited into her home. So after she died, some of her friends went into her home and found Glenn and Bessie's marriage certificate.
What? Are you serious?
And they found a birth certificate. And Georgie's birth name is Bessie.
No fucking way.
What?
Oh my God.
This Georgie Clark is born in 1911, so her age would have matched up-ish with Bessie's age in 1928, being 18-ish when she got married.
Oh my God.
So, and honestly, I love an Anastasia story.
Who doesn't, girl? Are you serious?
So this campfire lady's like, I'm going to try this. Oh, wait, it wasn't me. Whereas Georgie Clark had some actual, if it's not her, had some actual real evidence where she could have Anastasia'd the shit out of that situation.
Yes.
So, but she didn't. So her friends were like, she was very quirky and interesting, and it wouldn't be surprising if she's just like an avid river person, but had this memorabilia kind of, and never told anyone about it so that they would find it after her death, and whatever, make the mystery go on longer.
Right.
That's
or
crazy.
was she really Bessie?
Oh.
Wait. I also love the idea of like Bessie and what's his face going down the river, him being a total animal, her killing him, and then her being like, except I'm gonna tie all these rafts together and island my way down.
Oh, yes. Okay, so I love that because, she was a novice. She had never been on the river, the real Bessie. I love the idea of her being Georgie Clark and, like, killing him. Yeah, and then 30 years later, she's like, and now I'm going to be the expert and I'm going to be better than everyone ever.
Yeah.
Totally.
Wow.
Yeah, I forgot to say that she had no experience.
Yeah.
So then the skeleton.
Right. What the hell?
Yes, tell us who's in that boat.
You got a double story.
It was in a canoe.
It was in a canoe.
It was in a boat,
canoe.
in the boathouse, yes. So when the skeleton was found, it was found with a belt buckle and like some rags and maybe a shoe, I think. But very old, super old, like it's literally in a pile. Okay, what do you guys think?
Well, I don't know. Like I honestly have absolutely no idea, but I want to know so badly. I love that I didn't.
But I feel like if Emery Kolb was just like constantly on the river, watching the river, knowing everything about everything that happened on the river, like maybe somebody else fucking capsized and like he found this body and was just like,
shit.
I'm gonna take it. I don't know. I'm just
what with it?
I don't know. I don't know. It's
Like I
so
can't
weird.
identify it, so I'm gonna throw it in my fucking canoe.
I don't know.
All right.
So in the actual show, in the episode, you watch a photo of Glenn Hyde
that's
be
hysterical.
superimposed with the skull that was found.
Science.
High tech.
And
Super high tech.
So
and
good.
they just fade it out, fade it in and out.
They're like, see, there's eyes.
Yeah,
It's literally just them filming lights in a mirror.
that's it.
And the skull.
And Dr. Birkby, who's a forensic anthropologist, late 80s, not the most resources at that time. Like,
No.
he's just doing what he can.
He's
But
doing the best he can.
He's doing his best, but he points out the ways that the skull shapes are different, and he is basically 100% sure that the bones are not that of Glenn Hyde's.
Okay.
So the show ends, and you're still not sure what happened. So in my research, in 2006, a retired U.S. Forest Service director named Bob Williamson contacted the Grand Canyon Museum collection, and he wanted to donate some photographs from his father's collection, who was a Grand Canyon ranger in the 20s and 30s. Okay. So he's got 500 black and white photographs that he wants to give to the museum.
My dream.
And this article that I got a lot of this from, we can put it in the show notes, but the last part is just so cool because it's like anything you have laying around, like museums can use it for things like this that I'm about to tell you, and I think you can still see a lot of these photographs in the museum, but you just never know what you have laying around that can like help solve things.
Yeah. Wow.
So he gives them to them, and a museum technician named Kim Beeson noticed that in several of the photograph negatives, there's a skeleton. Just laying, and you can see a picture of this, but it's just laying on a cliff edge, and the canyon is like behind it, but it's black and white in a super old photograph.
Well, I'm sorry. So someone's taking photographs.
A ranger, probably.
And there is a skeleton, and he's like, I'm just gonna keep taking these photographs.
Yeah.
Okay.
Lots of them, apparently.
And not
and this
mention the skeleton.
No. Well, okay. No.
Okay.
So the skeleton in the photograph is like perfectly laid out, different than the pile of bones that are literally found in the boat, but laid out like it's been there a long time. They also find... Okay, so that's all she sees. Then she's like, well, what is this? So she starts going through the collection of reports for occurrences in the park. Yes. And she finds that someone different than who took the photograph had found a skeleton of a man found on the ledge under the canyon rim near Shoshone Point. There was a .32 caliber revolver found next to the person.
Right, I forgot about the bullet hole.
And there was a bullet hole in the skull above the right temple, suggesting death by suicide.
Okay.
Yeah, so then she's like kind of doing some more digging and gets a call from another person who's like retired. I'm trying to find his name. He had been working on cold cases for like the Grand Canyon area, and because they kind of reopened everything and wanted to do more research into that, even though it's so old. And so she gets a call. Joe Sumner, retired Grand Canyon National Park criminal investigator. Joe Sumner. He contacts the museum collection, and he starts asking just like, what do you have that might be able to help me in these cases? And he's trying to find...
There are like 500 pictures of a fucking skeleton. Are you fucking serious?
Yeah. So, and his two like biggest cases he's kind of looking for are the unidentified victim of the 1933 suicide, which he, I guess, had kind of known about.
Okay.
Like law enforcement a little bit had known about, but they still didn't know who he was. And the Kolb skeleton, which he's kind of still thinking the Kolb skeleton might be...
What's his name?
Glenn. But Bessam, who's just a true sweetie, is like, I have that. I can help you. So they get that together. They start like doing a lot more research about those photographs, superimposing different things in a better way than what we saw on the show. And it's like almost 100% sure that skeleton that was found in Emery Kolb's garage or boathouse is definitely that of the suicide victim. so the question still remained, well, how did Emery Kolb get these bones?
Right.
And the investigator found that Emery Kolb was so involved, like, in the area that he had been involved in, like, court stuff, court reporting, or just, like, sitting in on different monthly reports.
It was evidence or something?
Yes.
Oh, my God.
So, like, he must have been just possibly given the bones to, like, do something with as part of his job within the community. But he just didn't, and it's still not known. Like,
oh my God,
why didn't he do something else with them?
Oh my God,
and it's still not
only
known.
in the 1930s are they like, here, take home this skeleton,
and so 1930s.
Get back to us.
Yeah, let us know what you did with us.
I was listening to a podcast. I don't remember which one it was, but the investigator who was trying to solve something went to the courthouse, and they said that, like, sometimes the lawyer ends up with the evidence because it's basically just like, here you go, we don't need it anymore. And the woman couldn't trace like the path of who had the evidence. It's crazy that, like, they were like, why don't you try the lawyer? And the person doing the podcast said, you know, the lawyer of the trial, why would they have the evidence?
Yeah.
And the woman said, sometimes the lawyers end up with the evidence, like when it's all said and done.
Yeah, this is his official title. Emery Kolb had sat as a county coroner jury representative for Grand Canyon.
What the
wow.
So it's speculated that he probably acquired the skeletal remains after the death inquest, but they didn't know who the man was, and so, like, there was no family to send it to, so they're just like, here, put this in your garage. So
it's in your boat, dude.
It's sad because they don't know they still have not identified the man who died by suicide, and are still, like, kind of working on finding out who he could have been.
Sure.
But it's so long. They think
also,
he probably died around
suicide.
1933.
It's not like it was a homicide where, like, you're like, put this in
Exactly.
No, like the gun was
put
laying
this in
next to him.
CODIS.
Yes. Yeah, so it's Glenn and Bessie is kind of like a Debsy story, but for sure, Glenn is not the bones in the boathouse, and we still don't know what happened to Glenn and Bessie. Maybe Bessie's one of those two ladies, maybe not. But if you have cool things, donate them to a museum near you, because it might help solve things.
Yeah, especially if there's a skeleton in the background.
Yeah.
Sweet.
You're welcome. Head us off, honey.
Okay. On June 12th, 1985, Dottie Kaler was dropped off at the San Francisco BART station in Pleasant Hill, California, 18 miles from Oakland. Dottie suffered from agoraphobia, which I think we all know is fear of public places. Robert Stack says she went in and purchased a ticket, but we don't know if she did that. This is, like, way pre 9/11, so, like, there weren't security cameras. If she paid with cash, which she probably would have, like, we don't know. How do you know that, Mr. Stack? And then he's like, oh, we don't know if she bought that ticket.
We don't know.
We don't know if she boarded that train, and she's been missing for 2.5 years. Enter Jewel Kaler. Jewel. What'd you do to Dottie?
Wait, can we talk about what he looks like?
Oh, my God. Okay. So,
Stop what you're doing now. Go to our Instagram page
and
swipe through to look for him.
and find yourself a jewel of your very own.
See yourself two little jewels.
Two jewels.
Beatiest fucking pair of eyes you've ever seen in your life. And those eyes say they don't give a shit
Yeah, no.
about anything.
I mean, yeah, it's the walking definition of beady-eyed. I never knew what it meant until I looked into the eyes of Jewel Kaler, and
Then it struck you.
yeah, and I'm not going to say he killed his wife because it might be illegal, but
Okay.
here's some facts. Here are some fun facts about Jewel and Dottie.
So fun.
Jewel first told Dottie that his name was Jim Rupp to cover up the fact that he was married and had a daughter. He later divorced the first wife and married Dottie, so that's also kind of on Dottie. You know what I'm saying? I mean, if I found out that, you know. Okay. She was agoraphobic.
Quotations?
Yeah, no, that's my quote, my direct quote. She was agoraphobic and wouldn't leave the house, and he traveled for work and apparently cheated on her all of the time.
What a honey.
He was gone 50% of the time.
Gem.
Which is a lot.
In defense of Jewel, it's probably really difficult to live with an agoraphobic if you're a person who doesn't care about mental health or fully understand it.
And he didn't.
So Jewel worked for the forestry department as an entomologist, which I forgot to look up.
Bugs,
Baby.
bugs.
He was a fucking bug doctor for the forest.
I'm obsessed with bugs.
Is that right?
you?
Carly?
Really?
Fact check. Entomologist, is that right?
After a domestic dispute in 1981, Dottie joined Women in Transition. and began to develop the confidence she needed to get away from Jewel. Without Jewel's knowledge, Dottie made new friends, opened her own bank account, and rented a post office box. She also asked a friend to keep $5,000 in a cashier's check and documents containing accounts of Jewel's infidelity and abuse inside a file cabinet.
OJ.
Hi. Like, also, it's good to have a friend like that.
Mm-hmm. I'll be that for you.
Oh, thank you. Well, thanks. Hopefully it never comes to that, but...
Well, you never can.
You never can. You're right.
I'll be that for you if Carlin does something to you. Carlin, I'll be that for you if Hallie does something to you.
We're not going to kill each other.
If I'm going to do something.
Our husbands are going to kill us, dummy. That's sexy boys Carlin.
No, never.
So, in 1985, Jewel had just taken a new job in Salt Lake City, Utah, and since they pretty much hated each other by this time, they were going to get a divorce. And she, I guess, was going to either sign the house over to him or he was going to give her money for the house. I couldn't figure it out. Another fun fact. Jewel was actually engaged to another woman during the time of the disappearance. And she broke it off after he told her about his wife randomly going missing.
Girl.
Was that in the show?
Nope. Oh. She never saw him again, and he didn't tell the police that while they were interviewing him.
Nice.
Yeah. So, Jules' story is that he dropped Dottie off at the BART station on June 20th. The next day, he just happens to go back for some unclear reason and sees Dottie's car at the station with her purse and her ID and fucking everything.
Parked next to his car.
Yes. Parked next to his car. What?
Why?
Why?
I think we know why. So, mind you, aside from this making no sense, why would she get a ride from Jewel to the BART station, go home, get her car and her shit, drive back to the BART station?
Why was her car there?
Hi.
It makes no sense in any way you look at it.
Because he went home and he fucking drove it there. Maybe. I don't know. Also, her friends that were part of the transition group said that, like, it was super unnerving that she left her stuff behind because I guess part of dealing with agoraphobia is that you take everything you think you might need with you.
Yeah.
Like your fucking
familiar
purse.
objects, yeah.
Yes. So anyway, Jewel goes back for a few days and leaves a series of increasingly ridiculous, amazing notes. I couldn't get any photos of them. And Unsolved Mysteries doesn't get into it. But one had insinuated that she agreed that he could have sex with other women, which is like the first note I would leave. What? Like, no.
What?
I would be like, why is your car here? I thought I dropped you off.
Are you okay?
Yeah, not, I don't know why you're doing this. You told me I could have sex with other women. Like, don't leave it at that, maybe. Another one states that he spoke to Diane, Dottie's sister, and that she should call her. But when interviewed, Diane was like, Jill didn't tell me she was missing for 5 days. Yeah. Also, there's some other stuff. Jewel was angry in the notes that Dottie had disappeared, quote unquote, without signing refinancing papers for their house because he needed the money to make a down payment on his new home in Salt Lake City. But Dottie said that she wasn't planning on returning until the 24th. So why would he be mad on the 20th about, like he knew she was, if he knew she was leaving and he knew she was coming back on the 24th, why didn't she just sign the papers then or wait? And he immediately, on June 24th, he repainted the inside of the house, put it up for rent, and took most of Dottie's possessions with him when he moved to Utah.
Yikes.
He claimed he was forced to put the house up for rent because Dottie didn't sign the refinancing papers. But it turned out that Jewel originally signed a rental contract on June 7th, 5 days before Dottie
Whoa, girl.
went missing. Yup. So there's like a bunch of contradictory shit like this, you know. But this is when I'm like, I'll let Jewel speak for himself.
It was hell living with Dottie. It was hell having her disappear the way that she did. And yet, since I've gotten here and gotten settled and into a new job, and that whole problem is behind me, things are really pretty good.
With, like, his nose turned up in the air.
Oh, my God.
Like,
he is so
very,
condescending.
Like,
he is so, like, completely
It's
lacking
horrifying.
empathy. I mean, it's crazy. I have read that maybe he had Asperger's, but even... Sorry.
Even then, the word choice.
I don't care if you're on the spectrum. Like, also you're on TV. Muster a fuck. One fuck.
One.
Pretend to
Find
fucking
one.
care. So, do you think Dottie ran off and started a new life? Like, skip to the end. It's like, I have nothing to say.
Yeah.
You're not going to agree with me. Like,
No.
I hope that she's like pulling a Julia Roberts and like sleeping with the enemy and like trying on hats and dancing to fucking brown-eyed girl, but I don't think that's actually what's happening.
No?
Nope. I think she is dead. So here's the follow-up. A little bit of that was the follow-up, but here's a lot of follow-up because it gets deep. January 1998, Concord PD, Concord, California, which was in charge of the case, they received an anonymous handwritten letter postmarked from Gary, Indiana. It claimed that Jewel murdered Dottie by striking her with a tire iron in the garage before he buried her body under a birch tree in a remote area. It even contained a hand-drawn map. Years later, DNA testing was performed on the saliva, and it didn't match. But it tested positive for 2 men and 1 woman
What?
between the stamps and the glue.
What?
So it was just an anonymous letter sent to the police department. What? How many years later?
98 after the show aired.
Oh, whoa.
So it the show airing prompted someone to send this letter. The working
And it was
theory,
probably like a re-air even.
in
98.
No, 88.
88.
So it was
okay.
after the initial airing. The working theory is that it was a psychic, maybe.
Oh.
I don't fucking know. But I feel like if you're a psychic, you want the glory,
Yeah.
right?
No shade psychics, but
No shade, but you're bullshit.
All the shade.
So, in 97, Kaler's former next-door neighbor in Concord found a rusted meat cleaver with duct tape on the handle.
No, honey.
Charles, this is not even the worst part. Underneath some ivy on the fence next to his property, and he recalled a conversation from around the time of Dottie's disappearance where Jewel advised him not to cut the ivy because it would cause the fence to collapse. You know, the old saying, don't cut the
Right,
ivy.
the ivy is clearly holding the fence up.
The ivy is what is holding everything together.
It's so strong.
The ivy's strong. So in 2005, police performed a search of Kaler's former residence, and they didn't find any evidence of foul play. But ground-penetrating radar detected some anomalies underneath the concrete patio, and he had told people that she was under the patio, and he poured the patio around the time she disappeared. Also...
Wait, he told who that she was under the patio?
I don't know. Oh, someone received a letter. They received another letter saying that she was under the patio.
Okay.
So that's what prompted them to go get the search warrant,
boy.
search, but they didn't dig the patio up. And I read, like, on the forums, the commenters were like, he rented that because as a renter, you can't do any kind of renovation. Like, fucking dig up a fucking patio.
And pouring a new slab of concrete.
So, like, what can you do as a renter if you paint the wall? You have to
Right.
repaint the wall. So they were like, it's no accident that, like, he didn't sell the property. He just rented it forever. Then Jean Morris, a reporter for the Contra Costa Times, interviewed Jewel during the summer of 2001. So it's been 16 years after Dottie disappeared.
Okay.
Jewel told Morris that he forgot about his wife's disappearance, saying he assumed Dorothy was deceased. And it says, he now lives in Utah. He attempted to run for state legislature as a fucking libertarian, obviously. But withdrew his candidacy after, oops, he was under open investigation. The crazy thing was, Jewel changed his version of his wife's 1985 disappearance when he spoke to Morris. He now claims that he never drove Dorothy to the BART station. He thought she drove herself. Hi.
Huge
sorry.
piece of the story.
Do you like forget
Very important piece of
the
information.
day that your wife
on
disappeared
tape
forever?
telling the story of it.
Yeah. And he's like, right, wait, what? I don't remember that. I don't remember that.
Is this?
I remember I also wrote down that he said it didn't bother him that he was a suspect.
Oh, he said obviously the people closest to the victim are going to be the suspect. So, like, I'm fucking straight.
Oh,
I'm
that's
straight good with that. He's like, yeah, whatever. Of course, I
expected that.
Yeah, I expected that. I'm not upset.
Also, when he found the car, he was just leaving notes on the car.
Yeah, he didn't call the police.
No,
for
and his
4
friend
or
was
5 days.
her friend was like, "Did you call the
Yeah.
police?" And he goes, "No."
Yeah. Yeah, he was leaving a series of notes under her windshield wiper. Like, where are you? What's going on? You said I could have sex with
A
other
woman who's
ladies.
terrified of being outside of her home.
Yeah, let's not forget that this would be stupid if she wasn't agoraphobic. but she was agoraphobic.
Where is this man now?
Oh, I'm not done yet. Okay. So the week. Here's the thing about Jewel. He looks stupid. The way he speaks, he looks like a weirdo. But he's not a dummy. Like, he was an entomologist. He became an aerial photography specialist. He ran for state legislature again. I'm not gonna say libertarian again, but I just did. I don't think he was stupid at all, because in order to be able to do the things that he did, you have to be somewhat intelligent.
So the worst kind.
Yeah. Also, the week Dottie went missing, Kaylor left for work early for the first 2 days and then ghosted on his last week and a half of his job before he was supposed to move to Utah. And he said it's because he had to pack.
Wow.
Which I totally believe. In 2004, Dottie was finally declared dead. It took Dottie's sister forever to fight Jewel, because Jewel was just insisting that she was alive. And Jewel had this to say: "My personal opinion, from postal mail I have received over the years, plus other issues, is that Dottie is no more dead than I am. I believe she disappeared with assistance after securing an alternate identity, and that she's hiding in plain sight under all our noses. She'll turn up eventually." Kaylor has said over the years he's received correspondence that contains items to which only Dottie and or Diane, so he's like pushing the focus onto Dottie's sister, would have access. "I wish to be left alone," said the man who ran for fucking state legislature. "I don't care whether Dottie or her sister want to play dead, play alive, play someone else, play victim, or whatever." All I have to end with is that Jewel Kaylor owned a mine 2 hours away from Oakland in California. It's a closed mine, which I Googled. That means that, like, people don't ever go there. The mine's located in Amador, California.
No one goes in a mine unless they're a miner. Like, why would you ever?
Canaries.
He didn't do it, but he did have a mine. And I think he might still. And it was 2 hours away. Also, he has 30 acres in Oregon.
Oh, dead bodies everywhere.
Dead bodies
Mine full of
everywhere.
dead bodies. Property full of dead bodies.
We
So
would
many
know.
Yeah, we would know. So I legally can't say that Jewel Kaylor killed his wife, but I can tell you that he's on Facebook, so you should definitely look him up. I mean, whatever. Do what you want.
Those
But
beady little eyes.
he has a fucking mind.
So many questions.
Right? Okay, so Carlin asked if he still owned the mine or if we know when he owned the mine. And the documentation that I saw was the name of the mine, what the mine held, whether or not it was open or closed, where it was located, and then the owners. It didn't say previous or current, but I always say, once owned a mine, always owned a mine.
Well, the old saying.
You know what I'm saying? It's like, if you don't own that mine anymore, you still know where it is. I think, like, it's a sweet place to drop a bomb.
Oh my God.
So, again, in closing, I can't say he did it.
He owned a mine,
But he owned a mine, though.
Okay. All right. Well, that was our first episode of Resolved Mysteries. We hope you liked it. Thanks for bearing with us while we figure everything out. You can subscribe to our podcast wherever you get your favorite pods. If you like us, please leave a review on iTunes and tell a friend. That's the best way for others to hear about our show. You can follow us on Instagram at _solved mysteries. And we have a website, resolvedmysteriespodcast.com. You can contact us there if you'd like to. Thanks for listening.
Bye.
Bye.